Hi friends, strangers, internet. My name is EmilyHanhan. I love colorful makeup and colorful language. Today I have a eyeshadow review roundup for you. I have 5 eyeshadow palettes that are all 9 pans or under. The palettes are from brands that are definite indies, along with a couple of brands you will find in Sephora that also might still be considered indie. These palettes are also all on the slightly older side. I'm not talking about like Urban Decay Naked Honey, but I am talking about they were released in the spring or summer of 2021. So before I jump into the eyeshadow reviews, I just want to remind you that if you like colorful makeup, if you like bitches with lots of opinions, or you just like cute fat babes, please subscribe. Check me out on all my social medias linked in the description box for other ways to support. I appreciate you all so much. The first palette I want to talk about is the Eternal Bloom palette from Artist Couture. This is an 8-pan eyeshadow palette that is still available on Sephora. It definitely has a spring summer feel to it. There are 5 mattes and 3 shimmers, and you really get, in my opinion, a nice range of warm and cool tone bright shadows, and that also range from softer to more vibrant. So you get the, soft kind of mauvey pink tone, you get an orchid pinky purple, you get a nice turquoise that's not like too green or too blue, and you get a pink that is bright but also can add depth to any of the other shadows. Oh, and you get the really bright juicy peach that's like, again, I think of as more of a bright tone than a pastel tone. The shimmers are, where I understood how intelligently designed this palette was, not to like make it some fantastical, amazing, thing. But so you have 3 shimmers, but the thing is that each shimmer has this like duochromatic nature to it, where it's not necessarily that they're going to shift, but it's that they have like multiple tones of shimmers in the formula. So Glorious, which is the purple shimmer, it has those like warm pinky purple tones of Petal, the matte, but it also has that like pinky mauve tone of the other matte right here, Eternity. And so you could do a look where you put like these 2 together, or where you put those 2 together, or where you put all 3 together. Keep it really simple or make it a little bit more amped up. You could also add in some of the bright pink to punch it out. But I really liked seeing how that shimmer can take the more like safe neutrally tone of Eternity and make it a little bit more purpley, or make Petal, the purple, a little bit pinkier. And so Poppy, the peachy shimmer, it definitely has the peach tone of Flourish right next to it, but the color has some pink to it, so it really pairs nicely as well with Goddess, the really bright pink, or I think it would even pair with the more pinky tone purple over here. And same goes with Divinity. So Divinity is the turquoise shimmer. It obviously has those turquoise tones, but it also has a coolness in it where it would pair with the purple matte. I think it would even pair with the pinky tone matte, maybe. And also the purple and turquoise shimmers look great together. I just find that the tones make it easy to build a 2 or 3 color eyeshadow look really easily, but they also work together, so you could do something more complex where you do 4 or 5 colors on the eyes. I mean, if you wanted to show out, I think you could use even all 8 colors on the eyes, to be honest. I have found that the mattes work really nicely. You might need a white base if your skin tone is a richer complexion than me, especially I would say for like Petal, the pinky tone color, but the other colors punch on really easily. I found that the bright pink, you can get more impact or you can blend it. I hope I can give you some close-ups of this eye where I used it on the outer part of the eye, but I blended it in. Actually, I blended it into the turquoise and it made a slightly different tone purple than the purple that's in the palette. So they perform really nicely. Again, I've had this palette for a couple of months, so I've been dabbling in it off and on. The shimmers, they are firmer pressed. So if you're used to shimmers that really pick up easily and, you know, go on a little easier, these are not going to be that, but you can get there. And I also realized for people that are not as familiar with the really intense indie shadows, that's something that's a little less firmly pressed might be too much too quick for them. So I found I can build up the shimmers to get more of the intensity that I want. And they do have like glittery particles in them. Sorry, I keep messing with my wig. I haven't worn this one in a while and it's bothering me. Anyway, they do have little glittery particles in there, so you get, you know, shimmer and shine. But also if you're looking for like metallic foiled shimmers, these would not be the one. But I think this is a really lovely palette. I grabbed it on a sale. I would say it's probably a sale kind of palette for me, but it's a nice size. It has a nice packaging. It's magnetic packaging with a great little mirror. And I just think that it's a really lovely little capsule color palette that if you're not sure about pastels, maybe you don't want to commit to like the scale of the Glamlight Ice Cream Dreams palette, or maybe you don't want to commit to something like an indie brand where the wait time might be longer or it might be harder to get your hands on, I think this is a really lovely palette. Now, 3 of the palettes I'm talking about today are all from Lethal Cosmetics. I picked up the Rights collection. This came out, I would say spring, early summer. I picked it up right around the same time that Teresa is Dead came out, or Lethal is Dead. Lethal's collaboration with Teresa is Dead. Lethal is Dead. So they actually showed up at my place the same time because of shipping stuff. So it took me a while to kind of get into them and figure out my feelings, but I got some thoughts, some thoughts. I'm gonna take you through each palette one by one. Probably unsurprising to most of y'all, my favorite of the 3 is the green, yellow, kind of turquoise palette. Now, each palette has a little name, but I don't remember what they are. And the little 9-pan or the little 6-pan packaging, it's quite cute, but it doesn't have that information on there. So this palette has 3 shimmers and 3 mattes. And I find that with Lethal, I feel really hit and miss with their shimmer formula. I really like their matte formula, but their shimmers, a lot of times I can leave them. Sometimes I'll take them, sometimes I'll leave them. I think that the formula in this palette has some really nice shimmers. I think some of these might be advertised as duochromes, but they just feel like creamy, shiny shadows to me. And so the whitish one is kind of like a blue toned white, and then you have more of this like minty shimmer, and then this turquoise. You know, I'll say the turquoise gives me duochrome feels because it has like a goldish hue to it, like the shine on there. Now, the mattes. I mean, I'm not really a brown lover, but I do really like the tone of the green and the yellow. I feel like this tone of green matte was actually missing from the Lethal line, But here's where like my biggest critique is. This yellow, okay, it's not exactly the same as Daybreak, but it's incredibly close to the existing color Daybreak. I did a look where I used one yellow on one eye and one on the other eye, and you really can't see the difference. And this was like an all yellow eye look. So the recurring theme you're gonna hear me say with this whole collection, if you already have colors like this from Lethal, I can't really recommend picking up new collections. I'm a clown, and also a lot of times their pre-made bundles are a better deal per shadow cost, but literally I'm a clown. Don't shop like that, like unless you really know what you're doing, because I did buy some duplicates. I do feel like I have this brown in some capacity already from Lethal, although this brown does have a little bit more of that like slightly pukish green tone than some of the other browns I have. So it's not gonna be the exact same, but like I don't own all Lethal shadows, but I have them, all of the most recent, basically since After Dark, because I had After Dark, Velvet Dusk, and then these, and Lethal is Dead, and shadows before that. Anyway, all I'm saying, you might have some of these shadows already in your collection from Lethal, but I think this is like a really beautiful little 6-pan, because you could do an all green look, you could do a yellowy green look, you could get a more turquoise blue tone look if you really focus in on these two shimmers and just put like the green in your crease. You could get a little bit swampier with the brown. So I do think that of the 3 6-pans, this one makes the most looks and kind of the most cohesive looks. The mattes seem to perform just as well as their other mattes. I'm a very big fan of their matte formula. I like to blend out, fluff out. I'm not somebody that like packs on color and blends it out. And like I said, the metallics in this are very creamy. They feel pretty emollient. I would say they don't feel thick on my hand, like once I've put them out, and they don't feel that way on my eyes, but they might feel a little bit thicker on the brush or on your finger than like comparing them to some of the thinner shimmers that I was just talking about from Artist Couture. The next one is like, this is 90s dreams come true, 90s to early 2000s. This palette has, again, 3 mattes and 3 shimmers. The iridescent shade in here is also kind of blue toned. I think it goes a little bit more purple. It's more of like a purple iridescent. And then the 2 pink shimmers, one is more of like a bubblegum. Bubblegum is not a word. That was my sign that I should probably moisturize my mouth. Not that way. Shut up. So the other 2 pinks, or the 2 pink shimmers, the top row center one is more of like a pink to blue bubblegum pop, I don't know, delicious like pink. And then the one on the bottom row has a little bit more of a golden tone to these. These shimmers apply beautifully. The pink, both pinks apply really nicely. So the mattes, we have like a very pale mauvey pink, and then we have a color that's close, but it's like a little bit fleshier, a little more, I guess, rosy. It's more of like a neutrally tone. And then we have the matte purple. I really wish that, okay, so criticisms. I think that these two mattes are far too close, and this one is very, very, very light. So I really wished that they had gone a little bit deeper with this color. Basically, I wish this had been a stair step between this tone and the purple, because the purple is so much deeper than all of the shimmers and the mattes in here that I find that either it's going to overwhelm the look or I'm not using the purple in looks with the rest of the palette. So I'm happy to have these colors in my collection, but as a 6-pan, I don't love it. And if I'm being honest, I'm not sure if the warmer tone pink is one that I will hold on to. It's a nice formula, but it doesn't call out to me. And I wish the shimmers had been a little bit different as well. I think that like each color works, but I don't know if the tones actually work all together. Not in the same way that I felt like the first of the 6-pans did. So I feel like it's a little scattered, but what I would say is that like, I feel like these 3 go together and then these 3 go together, but I don't feel like they all go together. And I think you might struggle to make a look if you're only using this palette. So yeah, it's like, I like the formulas in here. I don't actually like it as a 6-pan standalone palette. Now the last one in this collection, this one is this peachy neutral palette. The mattes again work beautifully. The shimmers, I don't love. I adore this iridescent. This one is like yellow to peach. It's really pretty. Like I find it to be something I can wear on my cheeks as a highlighter in a similar way that I wear one of the colors in Lethal is Dead. And then I can wear it on the inner corner and you see the colors, the color difference. You see the duochrome. There's something about the 2 shimmers in the middle that, and I've had this happen with other Lethal shimmers, and I've talked to a couple people about them. And I think some of these formulas just do that. They just don't, they're not like super foiled and smooth, but they're also not textured. So let me explain. When it comes to shimmers, duochromes, multichromes, a lot of times what actually looks better on my smaller hooded eyes that are a bit more crinkly, where the skin is more textured, is shadows that are textured. Shadows that have like not flakies, but a slightly flakier texture, that have glittery, bits, that have like some kind of dimension to them. These kind of middle of the road shimmers that aren't as smooth and metallic and foiled as some other brands. I'm thinking of like Sydney Grace shimmers. Sydney Grace feels like metallic foiled shimmers. Kaleidos, Divina, so many other brands, they feel like they do more of like spangly, sparkly, textured shadows. I feel like these shimmers, especially the 2 in the middle, are in that middle of the road where they give me too much texture on my eyes. They emphasize the texture without the sparkle and the shine. So if your eyes have a different texture than mine, or if you like shimmers that are not as intense, you might like these, but I struggled with them. Perhaps what's happening with some of these formulas that I struggle with is that they really need more eye space. It's something I'm going to talk about, and I have talked about, where like I think some of these shadows, when you smear them out, when you swatch them, they look fabulous. They look really nice. And I think if you have more eye area where you can really like kind of push the shadow into your eyes and help that mica like kind of smear and spread, it looks so pretty. But I don't have that kind of space on my eyes. The other thing, these two mattes are way, way, way too close. So they really give you the same effect. Like they're a very like watermelon kind of peachy tone. And I wish that they had gone with like the lighter matte to be more orangey, more peachy, and less of this like hot kind of reddy peach, because they do come across very similar on the eyes. And this brown is very close to, probably it was a brown in Velvet Dusk. So while this 6-pan has like one of the most beautiful iridescence that I've ever seen, especially from Lethal, I think that as a whole, I'm probably going to end up decluttering a lot of the shades from this palette. So like both of these feel like duplicates of each other, and then the two shimmers just don't give me the effect that I want. So I'm coming to a realization with Lethal. I adore their matte formula, but I think I need to break my habit of buying all of the bundles, because for me right now, their shimmers just don't do it for me. And they keep duping themselves, and I need them to stop. And the sad truth is that I still love Lethal, and I want y'all to keep doing amazing things. And I think that's why it makes me sadder when I'm not super duper in love with a collection, because I want to love it. But also, speaking of a palette that I wanted to love, okay, let's talk about Le Jardin. So Musee Beauty, which has now been renamed to Kailav, as a dear friend of mine called it Kailav. I don't know. I don't love the rebranding. Okay, but formerly known Musee Beauty had released this 9-pan palette, and I just thought it was so cute. It was so pretty. I loved how the artwork matched with the color story. You had like tonal variety with the purples. You had tonal varieties with like the pink, peach, red. You had the greens and the kind of green tones that I love. I don't love any of the formulas in here. Here's what I have to say. The shimmers are fine, they are nice, but they aren't anything spectacular. They don't have that like liquid foil metallic look. They also don't have that like texture look. They don't quite, like, they just don't quite do anything for me. Like, they look nice, but when I'm playing with this palette or I put them on the eyes, I always just want a bit more. And then the mattes. So I understand that, like, in some capacity, some of these are kind of pastels. Like, in particular, the purple and the green. And they do go on the eyes like a pastel shadow. And what that means, for a lot of pastel eyeshadows, you need a white base. They're a kind of color that you want to pack on. And when you do more of the fluffy blend out kind of eyeshadows, they can look really pretty and watercolory, but sometimes they're so sheer that I find that, like, any coloration on my eyes, or if it's underneath my eyes, that, like, just like any of the tone of my skin or the imperfections of my skin will come through. And it just it sometimes it like the pastels will like muddy because of the tone of your skin kind of coming through with the shadow. Now, if you have like a great white base, these shadows might perform beautifully for you, but I didn't find myself as wowed by them. I think that in particular, the deeper purple, the red, the peach, like they work quite nice. But I found that the two colors that I was probably most excited by with the mattes, lavender and sorrel, were just too washy, just a little too sheer. I also won this in a giveaway from the brand. So yeah, I still have an appreciation for the image or the vision of the brand, and depending on how it moves forward with the rebrand will depend on how my feelings evolve. But as somebody that loves the little like 6 to 9 pan size, I don't find myself reaching for this colorful 9 pan, and that says a lot. Also, I know there's a lot of FOMO because this went away really quickly, and that's why I wanted to review it, because in case it comes back, at least you know my thoughts. Now, I have a runner-up, and I just want to quickly talk about this because I have done a first impressions video and I talked about it in my favorites and fails. The Huda Beauty Python palette. I just wanted to quickly say, I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown. Again, these are things that I've kind of said already, but we were here talking about 9 pan palettes, 6 pan palettes, so I thought I would share. The mattes perform pretty nicely. I think of these three as like a pastel formula. I think the browns perform fine. I didn't have a brilliant experience working with them, but I also don't really love brown on me. So I want to say take that with a grain of salt. The blue and the green up here, this blue purple duochrome and this shiny green are really pretty. I have a bunch of blue purples though in my collection. And I also have a bunch of green eyeshadow because I love green. So for these other two shadows I wanted to talk about. So actually, Haley's posted a video just in the last couple of days talking about the Natasha Denona Gold palette being discontinued. And the way she described a shimmer helped me kind of connect some dots for me. So she was describing the turquoise shimmer in that palette and how it's a black base shimmer, but it doesn't have enough sparkle to it. So when you like blend it out or put it in a big area, you get like the blackened tone, but you don't get shine or sparkle. That is kind of my experience with the middle shade. It has like a deep base to it, and it can look really beautiful and impactful on your eyes. But if you have any kind of tendency to blend your shimmers in any capacity, I found that the shine or the sparkle of the shadow goes away and you just really have this like deeper color. So if that's not how you apply your shimmers, if you're just like you put it on and you don't touch it, you might love that shimmer, but it's also incredibly close in tone to the blue purple, just a little bit less blue and a little more green. And I wish they were different. And the gold, I've said this, but it's similar to what I was describing the lethal shadows. You need the pressure and space to like smear this gold out, and it can look really pretty. If you see swatches of this palette, it might look stunning, but on the actual eye, I had this weird issue where I was getting texture because I couldn't smear the shadow out, but then I wasn't getting shine. So yeah, that's some quick-ish thoughts on this palette as well. So there we go, technically 6, kind of 5 palettes and all of my thoughts about them. If you have any questions about any of the palettes that I review, definitely leave them in a comment. Or if you have any thoughts about any of the palettes, if you have any advice on application techniques, or if you just have other makeup related opinions you'd like to share in the comments, feel free. Have a blast. I love talking with y'all in that space. Thank you so much to my patrons and my YouTube members. Y'all are the reason why I have the money to buy makeup, so thank you for that. And if you're interested in any of those ways to support me, they are linked at the top of the description box. And most importantly, take care of yourself better today than you did yesterday, because you are worth it. Bye, friends.